All right, thank you for joining us from wherever you are. It is currently 9 p.m. Eastern for me. I know it's morning for Xiaoli, so good morning, good evening from wherever you are. This is Let Your Code Fly High using part 4, front end on AWS. We'll get started shortly. If you would like to put where you're dialing in from, feel free to put that in the chat. This event is being recorded, so don't feel pressured to turn on your camera if you don't want to be in the recording. And yeah, feel free to get to know each other in the chat. For the agenda tonight, this is the welcome part from Women Who Code. My name is Jachi. I'm the leadership fellow for Women Who Code Cloud. This event is brought to you by the Cloud track and the front end track. And Princia is the leadership fellow for front end, but she is based out of Germany, so this is an awkward time for her. So in this session, Xiaoli, our guest speaker, who's at Amazon, will explain how to, I guess, maintain cloud architecture for her front-end web apps and show you how to deploy a front-end web app to AWS. So a little bit about Women Who Code. Our mission is to inspire women to excel in technology careers. Our vision is a world where diverse women are better represented as engineers and technical leaders. And we also want to create an inclusive community, and we have this code of conduct that we abide by for our Slack communities and our virtual events. If you would like to read the full version or access our incident report form, you can visit womenwhocode.com/code of conduct. A couple of announcements. We have a Connect Recharge, which is a virtual conference hosted by Women Who Code on May 26, 2022. The deadline to apply to speak is April 25th. But the earlier you submit, the more likely it is that you'll get accepted. And we have a call for paper speaker series to help you prepare your talk proposal currently going on. And our next event is actually next Friday, April 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern. So if you are thinking about applying but would like someone to look over your proposal, that is a good time. Last but not least, you can follow us on our various social media. We have a Beacons website that kind of has our LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So feel free to join our community on the website if you haven't already. Join our Slack communities and follow us on social media. And that is it from me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it off to Xiaoli to walk us through the main event
of the Let Your Code Fly series. And I believe last time Sunitha has introduced about how to put your front-end app on Azure. And this session and the next one, I will walk you guys through how to do something similar on AWS. So my name is Xiaoli Shen, and I am currently a solutions architect working at AWS. And before, I have been working as a full stack web developer for a long time. And basically, I do a lot of front-end and back-end web development, and then I move more on. Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I'm gonna have to mute people as they join. Xiaoli, keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So that was I was in the middle of a self-introduction. So I've been working as hands-on senior full stack engineer for some time before I joined AWS. And since I've been using the cloud technology a lot, and then I got the opportunity, so I joined AWS. Now I am working on helping people to use the cloud technologies on AWS better and easier. So that's also my goal today. So what we are gonna do in this session, there are currently I will gonna introduce two options of hosting and deploying your front-end React app on AWS. The first one is to use the relatively new service, AWS Amplify. This one would be like a really easy to use and service that gets anyone up and running in like basically no time. And it even sets up a CI/CD pipeline integration with GitHub or other code repositories. And then there is this more traditional way, and which is more widely used in the industry, and it also gives you more control over everything. This is relatively more, it needs a bit more of knowledge in the general cloud technologies of the AWS landscape. But then on the other hand, knowing this, basically, you know the industry standard way, and also you can have more insight about how scalable and performant front-end hosting should be like on the cloud. So later in these options, I will also touch services like CDNs. And yeah, so I guess we could quickly get started. And I wonder if you guys have already your AWS account. And if that's not the case, I created some temporary environments for you guys to follow along in this session. So if you are interested in following along and getting some hands-on experience with AWS today or tonight, I mean, this environment would be good for the next 10 hours. And to use that, to access that, I just put a link in the chat and just access this dashboard, event engine.run, and enter this event hash. And I think I will also show you a walkthrough myself. And you can register with your own email by selecting this email one-time password sign-in option. And by the way, this will not give me access to your emails. So basically, feel free to just use it, and your email address will be totally safe. I will show you using this with my personal email and entering this, and I will be sent a confirmation one-time password code, and with that, okay, so you see I already received an email of the one-time passcode, and I can then use that to sign in. Okay, and anyone following along in? Okay. So are you able to reach this point? Okay, and when you reach this point, just click console and open it. These are if we use the AWS CLI, we will need this information. But today, it's not necessary for today's content, so I will just ignore this. And then, yeah, here you get access to your temporary AWS account. Let's use the new console experience. Okay. And for the steps, I also created walkthrough docs, and you can also watching me while also reading the doc. This is what I am going to do today, basically. So the first one is to use Amplify, and the second one is to use the S3 and Cloudfront solution. So before we can do any of that, first we need to have our React application built and ready to go, ready to fly on the cloud. So I guess you guys, if you guys have been attending this series, and you should also have this code. This is the we use this code from the hackathon of Frontend study groups. And so if you haven't done it already, and use the script to build the project, and so that you have a build folder of all the assets that you could use in production. I guess, yes, we do have recordings of previous sessions also. I think there Jiaqi would be able to help you. Okay, so if you need access to the code, this is the code repository. And let's get on with our today's topic. Let's first deploy our React app with the AWS Amplify. So Amplify is a purpose-built tool for a web application. And with it, you can also configure a backend, and it provides hosting for front-end and mobile apps. So basically, it's AWS solution to help you just get your code up and running on the cloud quickly and easily. So today we will use the Amplify hosting feature for our React app. And you can, as I mentioned, it will set up Git Repository Integration for you. And these are the options you could use. So our code is on GitHub, so that's how I will do it. And for integration, you need to log in to your GitHub account. Yeah, and then you can choose which repo you want to integrate in this and which branch. Yeah, since this is my newest branch that has everything, but this is the Amplify branch I used last time. So it also adds support for picking a folder in case you're using a monorepo. And then it will generate a build setting for you. And it inspect your code and found that it's a React app, and also it finds the build command. And if it's not correct, you can also edit this here directly. And yeah, for advanced usage, you can also build Docker containers, etc. And so the basic default setting should be working for us this time. So I will just go next and save and deploy. Yeah, then you can see it started to kick off all this pipeline for you. And first it's provisioning the resources, the infrastructure for you. And then it will build your React app and then deploy it. And then you can verify. And this is the hosting environment. And in the next session, probably we would use the backend part. But this time we just use the hosting environment for frontend. And you can also see details about what's happening in each step. So for who are following along, and if you have any problems, just write in the chat. Okay, so our first deployment has worked, and hopefully now we can see, yeah, the React application is now built and deployed on the cloud. And this is an URL that's provided by Amplify automatically. And of course, you can use your own. So that would be something you could do following here at domain. And today we will not go that far with Amplify, and because we will also look at the more traditional and more traditional way to deploy your front-end app with Amazon S3 and Cloudfront. So yeah, Amplify is very easy, but it doesn't requires like so little effort. But then it also hides all the complexities, like how you scale your app, how you do high availability or enhance performance. And that's something we could see when we do the second option of deploying to S3 and Cloudfront. So for that, let's first take a look at what S3 and what Cloudfront is. So Amazon S3 is an object storage. So basically you have a key and you access your files, which are objects, with the key. And it provides 11 nines durability, which means it's very, very unlikely you will lose anything if you put them on S3. And S3 provides the capability or the feature for you to host static websites. And by static website, we mean a website that contains no server-side scripting and client scripting, like JavaScript. They will be running on the client. So basically, it's part of the static assets. So our React app with index HTML and the JavaScript and CSS and other assets would be considered a static website, and it's good to host in S3. And CloudFront here, CloudFront is a CDN service, a content delivery network, and it's basically, it serves as a CDN between your user and the origin, which is the S3, where you assets will reside. And why is that a good thing? Because, for example, I'm in Tokyo, and when I create a S3 bucket, I create it in Tokyo, in the Tokyo region. And AWS has this global infrastructure. So actually for your user, if they are in the United States, and the distance will introduce some latency. And with CloudFront, there are a lot of edge locations. So when you user try to access your website through CloudFront, CloudFront will route that request to the nearest edge location. In the case of the user in the United States, it will be somewhere in the United States. And how CDN works is like if your content is already on that edge location, I mean cached, then CloudFront doesn't need to go to Tokyo to grab the content and send it back to your user. It will just send the content to your user from the nearest place, which give them the fastest experience. And only if when the content is not yet at the edge location, and Cloudfront will make a request to the origin and retrieves it. And all the requests after that will happen as just described. The content will be served to the user from the nearest edge location, and which gives them the fastest, the best user experience. Okay, any questions on if you have any comments just use the chat. And let's now get started with the S3 part. So first, go to the S3 console. And here I create a bucket. So by the way, the S3 buckets, the name needs to be unique. So that's not only unique within your buckets, but unique in all the S3 buckets everywhere in the world. So basically it's just like coming up with a domain. I will just add today's date and also my Twitter handle. So that, I guess that would be pretty unique. And for the region, you can choose the one the nearest to you. So for me, it's Tokyo. And this is something we don't need to worry about now. And here, because we are going to use S3 to host our website, so it has to be publicly accessible. So this is a warning because a lot of AWS S3 users, they use S3 to store their private data or company internal data. So for them, they don't want their data to be disclosed to the public. So now it's actually when you create a new bucket, by default, all public access is blocked. So you need to explicitly unblock public access and also acknowledge that this is something you really want to do. Everything else looks good. So let's create the bucket. And then I am going to upload the build content of my React app. So yeah, this always comes in, so I need to remove it, and everything else looks okay. Upload. Right, so now we can configure this bucket to be static, to be able to host a static website. We do that in the properties tab. Never mind this. This is a limitation when we use this temporary AWS account. So here at the bottom, static website hosting, let's edit it and enable it. And then more configuration will show up here. So we'll tell them the name of our indexed HTML file, which is basically what we have here. And if you have this file but with another name, and use that name here. And optionally, you can also create an arrow page here. Save changes. So here it will generate a website endpoint for you, but right now it's still forbidden because we still need to grant read access to the public explicitly by editing a bucket policy. So we do that in the permissions tab. In the Markdown document, there is a sample policy, and replace the bucket name placeholder with your bucket name. So in my case, this is that part when we code today's date and my Twitter handle. And yeah, never mind all this. These are also limitations of this temporary accounts, because with this you have more limitations about access of certain AWS services. So now let's try again. Yeah. Now we can see on our React app, the production build is now accessible on S3. So as I showed, this S3 bucket is in Tokyo, which is AP Northeast 1 region. And if a user in the United States wants to access it, it needs to go all the way to access the content in Tokyo. And now we are going to add Cloudfront, the CDN, so that the users all over the world can access the content from the nearest edge locations, which also are data centers of AWS. And also you can see that connection is not secure. This is because the S3 website endpoint doesn't support HTTPS. And in order to use HTTPS, we also would need to use Cloudfront. So let's go to Cloudfront. And we create a Cloudfront distribution. Here in origin, we can find the S3 bucket, and we select this, which means if a user access the website, but the content is not yet cached in the Cloudfront of that edge location, it will go to this origin to grab the content. So by selecting that, this origin name will be filled in for you. And we want to make our S3 bucket more secure, which means currently we actually allow everyone to access it from anywhere. And here we want to say, yeah, only me, the bucket owner, and the Cloudfront can access the bucket. And for that, we create OAI, the origin access identity, for Cloudfront to use. And here, Cloudfront can also help you update the bucket policy. And all the other settings are good as default, except the default root object. This is the place we need to tell Cloudfront where or what S3 object it needs to serve when the user just access with a slash. So we want people to be able to reach our index here. So we also enter the index HTML here and create distribution. Okay, we can see that it's now being deployed. And Cloudfront also provided us with a default domain name. And if we use this, we can use the default SSL certificate provided by Cloudfront as well. And if we take a look at the bucket policy, we can see that this is the bucket policy that Cloudfront added for us. And this is our original one. And we would like to get rid of this because it allows everyone to access our bucket. Still deploying, it could take some time. Okay, now it should be ready. And see, now our React app website is served from Cloudfront, on which we'll then cache the content for the user at the nearest edge location. And this is the Amplify one, and we can close that. And at the same time, this should be no longer accessible. Yes, because we don't want everyone from everywhere to be able to access our website. directly add our S3 bucket, we want them to always go through the Cloudfront. This not only provides better performance, but also makes your site more secure. Okay, so that's concluded our hands-on today. Okay, I see we have a question. Yes, accessing bucket is, for example, you can access it from the S3 console, or you can use CLI and you can upload, download things here. And if you allow anyone to access the S3 bucket directly, you basically are like not very secure with the content in there. And with the website endpoint provided by S3 hosting feature, as mentioned, we also cannot use HTTPS. So everyone can still see the site now because we tell Cloudfront. So Cloudfront basically go to grab the content from our S3 bucket and serve it to the users. They can only see it through Cloudfront, but they cannot directly access our S3 bucket. Okay, great. Thank you. So I guess I will close a little bit early today.